We go.
There's really no...
Travel and Things, in association with Ruggedware, Real People, Real Clothing, Real Solutions, presents In Conversation With. I am your host, David Batsoffen, and my guest today is the author of a brand new book in the Tannie Maria Mystery series. The book is called Milk Tart Murders, and the author is Sally Andrews. Sally, how are you doing?
Hey, David, I'm doing well, thank you. Hello. I see you're all bundled up for winter.
I'm bundled up. You look like you've just come out of a swimming pool.
It's balmy here, but you never know what's going to happen here. So I've got a brolly in case of rain, and I've got a hat in case of sun. I'm on my neighbor's strip where I get Wi-Fi.
Where are you wearing red fellies, though? That's what I want to know.
No, I'm barefoot.
That's okay. Now, barefoot in the mountains, what more can one want? The new book. I started at the back, I have to tell you, not at the last page. I always read acknowledgements first. It's just a habit. Some people just go, I'd like to thank my mother for making this possible. You have a whole book of acknowledgements. It could have been published as an annex to a thesis, Sally. You're going to,
and it gives away a lot of the plot if you read the acknowledgements first.
That's what I realized. All right, so it wasn't quite the beginning of the book. I didn't read it right at the very beginning. I was about halfway through when I thought, let me because not every book has acknowledgements, but then you go into some serious stuff and thank people who've tested, who haven't tested, who might have tested, chickens that used to be, chickens that will be, past, present, and future.
I think maybe it's making up for the isolation of being a writer. Suddenly you've got to feel connected with everybody. And also, I think if I had better reception, I'd just have Google to thank. But Google's tricky. So I end up emailing and having lunches with people when I come to Cape Town and having a fun adventure of learning stuff. And Google isn't so clever, hey?
No,
people often know better.
Well, this is it. Or they experienced it where Google is just searching through a series of pages that might have experienced whatever it is you're looking for.
Yes.
But surely that's the way that old school writers did their work. They went, they spoke to people, they sat in libraries, and they took library cards out of those old wooden drawers and had to go and look for the books.
Oh, no, I didn't do that. That's taking it too far.
No, come on, lie a bit. Nobody really knows.
No, I didn't. I just had to look in the books in my own shelves, which are quite limited. But I had really fun. I mean, I'm very blessed with the people I happen to be friends with. So I had a friend who was a geriatrician, and a friend who was a pediatrician, and a friend who's a policeman and a lawyer. And it just meant I got to catch up with old friends and take them, buy them lunch, and sit also sometimes at parties. People would sometimes be shocked. They come and listen to me talking to my doctor friend, and we're talking about, but how can we kill this old lady? and him also, his wife coming and seeing him researching on the internet poisons that don't leave a trace. But I think it's fun for people to be involved as well.
I think so. Have you kept the same sort of group of people who've been helping you through the series? If I go all the way back to Recipes for Love and Murders, from there through to where you find yourself now, or are you using different sources?
There are some that are consistent, but there's also specific needs. So there's people who know about collectibles in this last book, and who know about wills and such things. So it's not the same, but I do have people who seem to be willing to help me more than once, for which I'm very grateful.
Despite whatever you did with the first book.
It does mean at the end, I have like dozens and dozens of copies of books that I send out to people who helped. So that's really quite a big project. I've got to buy about 40 books and send them over. And this last time, there was a mix up and people all got the wrong copies addressed to other people. So it turned into even more of a Monty Python kind of circus.
I have to tell you, years ago, I interviewed a particular journalist. And he brought in books. I'm not going to mention his name because he's still with us and he may be embarrassed. And he'd brought in a couple of books to give myself and my co-host as gifts. And we say thank you. We're ecstatic about we open our books and they're inscribed to other people. He just grabbed them off a shelf because we bested him on it afterwards. And he said, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So don't feel bad. It's been done before. The plot on the new book is very convoluted.
It is, isn't it?
And
I had to draw lots of little graphs and things, especially with the clues on the shelves of the books and things.
Yeah, you see, you've preempted my question because you've preempted my question because I was going to say to you, did you hate yourself sort of a third through the book? Did I really have to do this? Can't I just go back and start and go, there's a body in the main street and we'll work it from there?
Yeah, I don't know what possessed me, but it was fun. It was fun. I spent a lot of time. So some of the story, although lots of convoluted subplots and red herrings, but there was also the clues in the books. And I spent a lot of time in secondhand shops trying to find books that begin with a certain letter with authors and years and check when they were trying to work out a sort of clue system that an old man in a collectible shops might have used. So that was also a way to make friends and influence people.
Because obviously there are people out there who read your books with a laser focus. And if you leave out an A or don't dot a T, you're going to get emails going, that book was only published it's either long before or long after you've set your plot. So he couldn't have had that book on his shelf as a collectible.
Yes, I don't hand out my email address for that reason. But also, I do believe that the author works with the writer to create a state of suspended disbelief.
Yeah.
Kind of mutually agreed on. So even though you know it's fiction, you don't want people, even if it's just a small percentage of people who know about heart medication for young people or old people, you don't want them saying, oh, that's not true, and then they're thrown out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you couldn't have died of that.
A lot of research, but usually I come with the plot first, and then I try and make sure the research fits into that.
Yeah.
So I don't spend a lot of time swanning about randomly researching. I decide what I want to do, and then I try and force reality to fit, and then I've got to change a little bit to fit the truth.
Do you start out with some characters that you sort of like in the planning stage, and within days or weeks of you starting, you go, you know what, I'm going to kill this person off. I really don't like the character, and there's no way out. They're either going to leave the village, get killed in a road accident, or fall off the mountain.
No, because I'm a plotter rather than a pantser. So I've worked it all out in the beginning. And I think it's very important that your characters that die are likable on some level, or else who cares who killed them?
Exactly. And I'm sure you get instantaneous feedback from your readers, specifically now with Recipes for Love and Murder being on television. There must be a lot of spin-off from that. People have gone back to the first book and have read the series and have now read Milk Tart Murders as well.
Yes, but again, I don't know. I don't hand out my email address.
Well, there's one. You can contact.
It's just you and me and my publicist, David.
Frida, are you watching this? Fair enough. Understandable. Do you have favorite characters that, should there be more books in the series, they will come with you rather than leave the door to go and seek their fortune? Like Jessie, she could go and become a investigative journalist in Cape Town. Move on to bigger papers and better things.
Can I write that down? Possible plot. I don't know. I'm rather attached to all of the characters, I must say. Even when they're not main characters in a book, I try to find a way of sneaking them in, because they've each got quite unique energies that I've come to love, and they kind of feed me.
Yeah.
And they've got different aspects. So without, like Zabanguni, she's just a cameo character in this book, although she's a major character in Death on the Limpopo. I just like her guts and her black Ducati and her leather. So I just wanted to pop in. And she can sometimes cut in and talk straight through something that could many chapters. So she can just sort things out, tidy everything up. So it also helps the reader get clear in their mind what the issues are. And then Rickus is just so adorable with his sort of satanic mechanic history and his doing he allows me to do a little bit of the new age stuff, that I can bring in more stuff that's just too new agey for Tannie Maria, who's much more feet on the ground. And Jessie's just got her, I mean, they've each got their own superpowers in a way.
Yeah.
So I'm not ready to let go of them.
Fair
I think
enough.
I'm going to be a real wuss and never kill off any of my characters.
There's no red wedding in store for any of your characters.
No, I don't even know what that means, but it sounds terrible.
Okay, so what happened in Game of, it was Game of Thrones, and it was in season 4, and they killed off almost every major character in one wedding.
Marvel Comics did that as well. They killed off all the superheroes. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. How
much Sally is in Tannie, or for that matter, spread across all of the characters?
She's very spread across. So I think it's important that your main character is not like you.
Yeah.
So I focused with Tannie Maria on how she's old. Although I'm becoming, I've overtaken her in age. I'm reaching menopause. I'm fattening up. I'm eating a lot more cake. So I mean, there can become more similarities. But I think originally it was important that she's more Afrikaans than English, that she's obsessed with cooking, which I don't know anything about, that she's very grounded and plain speaking, whereas I can be airy-fairy, convoluted. So I did focus on differences with her, but we share a lot of the love for the clan Karoo, the love of nature. We just express it very differently. We share a sense of justice. We share a romantic nature. We share an ability to give good advice. And then with Jessie, I think Jessie and Zabangunu, they're more linked with my political history as an activist, where I was very hardcore like Zaba and very unforgiving like Jessie. And the characters affect each other. So Jessie, for example, has softened a bit because of Tannie Maria's influence. And similarly, Tannie Maria, they all in a way, they're of me, but they also are teaching me all the time. So Tannie Maria helps me to ground, and the satanic mechanic helps me with spiritual matters. So they're aspects of myself, but they also evolve and become something else that feeds back to me. But I would say, Zabangunu in some ways was actually what I was closest to politically in the previous book.
Were you a biker chick in the day?
I beg your pardon?
Were you a biker chick in your day?
Oh, no, I wasn't a biker chick. I think that's just a longing. I was more of just a hardcore political activist, just straight talking and very academic in feminist and anti-capitalist language and such things. And then Jessie, for example, she wears things around her belt which are very similar to what my partner Bowen wears, all those pouches with stuff. He's got pouches with even more than what Jessie's got in her belt. So there's things like that do reflect aspects of my life. But I'm really, people often try and draw things like, what is this based on, that based on? And I need to remind all readers, this is fiction. I make it up. Make it up.
But it's like people get invested either in the characters, in your instance, or in a television series, and they believe that the character is real. If you go back to the days of Dallas, Larry Hagman was meant to come to South Africa, and he had to cancel his trip because there were death threats. They thought he was J.R. Ewing, and they believed his character. Is that good acting, or is that just stupidity on the part of human beings who can't separate reality from television?
No, I confess to being the same. I mean, in a way, those characters now do exist for me. They are entities, and I create a plot with a bit of a notion, and then I watch and find out what they do. They do have developed a life of their own.
Because so one of the things you mentioned, I think it's in the acknowledgements, is you mentioned somebody who said that they would use dunk and not dip, and they're for rusks. And there is an ad on television at the moment with a little girl talking to her dad about a particular cookie. And she says to him, dunk it, you can't eat it dry, type of thing. And I think of you every time I see the ad.
That's my lovely friend Omar Maria, who I asked her, can I use your name? It's not based on her, the books, but she actually ended up following the books. She wasn't living in a small town, but then after I wrote the book, she moved to a small town and became more and more like the character I wrote. But we lost her last year, so it's nice to meet her. And she was I'd always phone her about language. I had her, the sort of way she'd use English in my mind. She's Afrikaans speaking, so I'd ask her about, and then I'd use her word. And if I was arguing with the editor who wanted me to dip wanted me to dunk the rusks, that I said I want to dip them. And then I check with Oma Maria, and she said dip. So she's been my reference, and she's also given reviews and things.
Do you sometimes then, if the characters, or if you are spread across the characters, do you sometimes write a sentence and you go, no, that's not them. They would never use that sentence structure. Let me rethink it, or let me write it in a different way.
My body's blowing off. Hang on a sec.
Okay. My guest today, Sally Andrew, we're talking about the milk tart murder. Sally's just gone to collect her umbrella, which was blowing off into the distance. My question to you was...
Yes, it's more than a particular word. I would say that that's just not their language.
Yeah.
I try and write quite quickly, so I might get some words wrong on my first draft.
Yeah.
Although some words will immediately be corrected, like almost autocorrect.
Yeah. Do you then write by hand, or do you write modern school, seeing you're on your neighbor's stoop because that's where you can get Wi-Fi?
I can't read my own handwriting anymore. It's a sad thing.
Ah, okay. So you don't have like a favorite pen or one of those things?
I make a lot of notes.
Okay.
I make a lot of notes, and so I'll just make, if something's on my mind, then I'll jot it down and come back to it. But I like the tidiness of being able to delete a thing and paragraph it and commit to it. Whereas I think I used to do a lot of morning pages, and I associate writing with just therapeutic scribble.
Okay.
So I will sometimes do that, but mainly I'll work on my computer.
Now I've been remiss in two things. One, I haven't mentioned the publisher of the book, which is Penguin Random House, their Umuzi impression. And secondly, there we go. I never remember left to right and right to left on these things. There we go. Frida, are you happy now? I can move on. And secondly, I haven't asked you to tell me about the book, because I don't want to give away spoilers, because there was a story.
You've read it.
I've read it, so I know what it...
Now you're not curious about what's in it.
No, I'm curious as to why you picked the particular nub of the book. Because that has come up on a Netflix documentary in the last 2 weeks since I've read the book. That particular character. No, the character in... She who sang Happy Birthday. Let's leave it at that. I don't want to, unless it's not a spoiler.
Okay.
But now I know you like...
Oprah Frick is in love with Marilyn Monroe, and he watches a lot of her movies, and the first death takes place during watching a Marilyn Monroe movie, which is why she's on the cover. But maybe for people who don't know the books, I must give a little bit more background.
I was going to say, do you want to read something from the book as a sort of a preamble to you telling us about it?
Okay, cool. So I'll do that as a preamble and then give a little summary of the book.
Yes.
Chapter 1. I woke to the sound of swallow chirrups. Every spring they fly across Africa down to the Klein Karoo. They already had one nest on my stoep, and now they'd built another outside my bedroom window, made of mud, like my house. Henk grunted and rolled over, his arm falling across my chest. I was wearing my cotton nightie, and he was naked. I smiled at this big sleeping man with his chestnut moustache and strong arms. My smile woke him. He propped himself up on an elbow. Marry me, he said. No, I said. My late husband, Fani, had put me off marriage for life. But maybe we could live together, I said, stroking the silver and copper hairs on his chest. You could move in here. Henk turned onto his back, put his hands behind his head and looked up at the Oregon ceiling. Maybe we should just leave things like they are, he said. Shadows fluttered across my sash window. Swallows, leaving the nest. Is this about Norma, I asked. All her stuff, in your house? Norma was Henk's late wife. She had died a few years ago, but his home was still full of her furniture and photography and recipe books. We could go to a movie together, he said, this afternoon. But it's Saturday. You watch rugby with Richard. Jessie convinced him to go to Opa Fruk's movie, Henk said. It's a love story. Okay, I said, but first you can help me bake a lemon drizzle cake.
How many lemon drizzle cakes? Thank you for that. It's beautiful. It really is. And I've only just realized, although I know that Marilyn Monroe is in it, I've just realized that his wife's name was Norma, which was Marilyn Monroe's real name. She was Norma Jean. Oops. You didn't hear that from me. It's on page 3. You'll pick it up very quickly.
I'm just going to have to kill all the listeners.
I don't
Frida, take that.
Yeah, I normally don't do that. I'm really sorry, Sally.
No, it's fine. It's not major. There's so many things going on.
As I say, I've just realized that, and I read the book.
It's Swahili. Norma is Swahili for
somebody else.
For movie star.
Yeah.
So just to give that as an introduction, my main character is Tannie Maria. She's been in 4 books. This is book number 4. Each of the books is set in a different season, and she's an agony aunt for the Klein Karoo Gazette. Plus, she gets involved in murder mysteries, along with her sidekick Jessie, the investigative journalist, and sometimes with the help of the Mary Poppins style editor, who is Hattie.
Yes.
And in this book, the murder is of an old man, which happens while they are watching a Marilyn Monroe movie in his vintage collectibles shop. Well, maybe if I can find it, I will just read that a paragraph which describes the book and the movie. Henk held my hand. The movie was Some Like It Hot, black and white, with Marilyn Monroe and Jack Lemmon. It was funny and sweet, and sometimes scary when people were killed. For a while, it seemed like everything was going wrong, and there was no hope for the lovers. But then, in the end, everything turned out all right. Movies should always be like that, because real life often isn't. We need to live in hope. Or else why keep going? We want to believe pain and sorrow are things that will pass with the wind, and that love and happiness can belong to us, like the earth beneath our feet. As you'll see from that extract, I believe in happy endings.
Yeah.
Also because I believe they're possible for humans. So as well as being a murder mystery,
Right.
the books are also love stories, and Maria goes through challenges. In this one, there's quite a big theme of jealousy and self-worth, and her eating becomes more hardcore. She goes through a lot of crises with Henk and with Jessie, and crises of faith, and she overeats. And I didn't know, had she actually got an eating disorder? And I take her to AA. This is not really giving stuff away, but I go into her eating issue more and explore it. That was also really fascinating. Was listening to podcasts from people at Overeaters Anonymous and going to OA meetings and just learning so much about these golden people who've been through hell and come back again. But I also realized that even if she didn't have the most hardcore problems, there was an archetypal theme for us all in the theme that comes up in her group. She joins a subgroup with Rickus, the mechanic, who's also a counselor, which is face your stuff, don't stuff your face.
I love the line.
And even for those of us who don't bury ourselves necessarily in food, we struggle to be fully in our lives. We struggle to feel our feelings, and our whole culture is around avoiding it, buying something, doing something, escaping your feelings, escaping life. And in escaping your pain, you also escape your pleasure. You escape the full joy of being alive.
Exactly.
So although what I went into in the book was something quite specific, for her. And I also feel in every book I'm trying to find things that are going to help me, but that have archetypal values for others. So
the
a lot
question,
of people did find the book helpful.
well, that's great.
And
something you may not have had an inkling of when you started writing, that it would be not necessarily a handbook for overeaters, but just to make them realize that they're one of us. You know, we all look to diminish the pain in various ways. Do people have to read the books in order, or can you pick up from Milk Tart Murders and work backwards?
you can read in any order, and I'm quite careful to try not to give away big reveals that were in book 3 and book 4. So I even phrase something in a fudgy kind of way. I haven't read it, and I want them still to be surprised.
Yeah.
But if you can read them in order, you may as well.
Yeah.
The main is the evolution of her relationship with Henk and her psychological growth, because she really does go through different stages of growth. I think maybe if you read them in order, you can go deeper and deeper with her.
You quoted Mary Poppins earlier, so let me use that in wrapping this up. Let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. So start with Recipe for Love and Murder, and then work your way. The others are Tannie Maria and the Satanic Mechanic, and then Death on the Limpopo, which I love because the character that you mentioned on the Black Ducati arrived in that. The book
you're a traveler.
Exactly. The book is available, as they used to say back in the good old days, at all major bookstores. It can be bought online. It makes a great gift. It also makes a great holiday book. I do not own a Kindle. I've just been away on a 2-week road trip, and the book came with me. And between that and movies, I spent my evenings in the bush. So it was really wonderful reading your book under the stars to a headlamp, because there was no power at the lodge. Sally, thank you so much for taking time. Thank you to your neighbor for allowing you to sit on her stoop and to share your thoughts about the Milk Tart Murders with me. As I said, the book is The Milk Tart Murders. It's published by Penguin Random House. It's their Umuzi impression. The author is Sally Andrew. It's a Tannie Maria Mystery. I keep getting it wrong. Tanimari Mystery. If I say it with an Afrikaans accent, Mari Biscuit. There we go. So it's a Tanimari Mystery, and you will do yourself no harm in reading the book, trying the recipes, especially the lemon drizzle cake, which are lovely, and everything else involved. Sally, I look forward to the next book in the series. I wish you all the very, very best. And one day, perhaps one day, we'll actually get to sit on your neighbor's stoop and enjoy, and we will dip a rusk together in a cup of tea.
Thank you, David. I would love that. You're welcome here anytime. And the next book I'm working on, I've just done the draft for. The story of it will be a cookbook with all the recipes in the Tannie Maria books, along with a story. And I love the lion cub behind you. It's just so beautiful. And
thank you so very much.
You are capturing with words and with photographs the beautiful places in our country.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Sally, thanks once again. Take care. All the very best. Can't wait for the cookbook.
Thank you. Till we meet again.